Okay. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, special thanks to Aussie Street Shark from the Super Challenge Bros channel. He's been helping me make our streams a little bit more professional. Started momentarily. Hope everything works. I did a bit of a test stream last night. The only person who caught that like 5-minute test stream was Org Luzman, because it happened to actually be at a good time for him. The stream, Mark Kalinix.
Establishing battlefield control. Stand by.
And away we go. Sure, Romanov, lay it on me. Alright, where do we leave off? Here, I believe. Oh, here we go. New construction options. Time restored. Should have thought of that before bringing MLRSs. New construction options. Alright, where's the Tiberium? Oh, there's the Tiberium.
Construction complete. Building.
Yes, sir. Unit moving out.
Luke Danger says, though, Mark, it would be a sad mistake to take Snowman for a slush pile.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, stay right there, buddy.
Waiting orders. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Orders received. Yes, sir.
I remember this mission as a kid. I remember it being really hard for me. Hopefully as an adult, I can manage a bit better.
New construction options.
Orders received. Orders received.
Sherman Lane says, I usually use the yard further north to get some distance from the constant APC engineer rushes.
Yes, sir. Orders received.
Welcome to the chat, dear en route.
Moving out.
Good to have you here. You said, how did you feel after releasing the Tiberian Sun analysis video and seeing its success? It was completely unexpected. Before I moved all my Let's Play stuff to the Snowman Playground channel, I was just making Let's Plays of things like Fortnite and Battlefield 1 and a few other things, I think. And that was getting like, that was getting like 32 views a video, if that. And most of that was from bot traffic. And then I decided, oh, you know what? I really like watching video essays online. I would like to see if I could try my hand at doing that. And the first video essay I did was on Assassin's Creed 3, which is one of my favorite video games of all time. And that one did decent. That one got hundreds of views instead of tens of views. So I thought, okay, maybe there's a future in this. So I kept doing the Let's Play stuff, and then I thought, well, if I did a video essay on Assassin's Creed 3, one of my favorite video games of all time, I should do one on Tiberian Sun, another one of like my top favorite games of all time. So I just did, and I didn't think it was going to be anything that special. It really, when it took off, I suddenly realized, kind of in retrospect, oh, of course that took off. There's not too many people in the space of making video essays on Command & Conquer, and it's a very vibrant community. And I realized that could very easily be my niche. And I think the next video I made was on Tiberium Wars. And that one didn't do as well, but still got like 20,000 views. And that was when I kind of realized, like, okay, this is what my channel should be. This is what's going to get the views. And also, I love talking about it. And yeah, so I honestly didn't expect it to get that big. This was mostly, I was doing this for myself and for posterity. It was not, I don't think I ever really thought it was going to be successful.
Construction complete. New construction options. Building.
Trevor Lane says, they hit with the APCs from the water south of your start. Constant engineer rushes. You will want laser towers to guard that side of your base. Gotcha, will do. That's going to get annoying fast.
Moving out. Yes, sir. Waiting orders. Orders received. On my way. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Moving out. Yes, sir.
Chase Baker says, this map has the rare meteor fall environmental event. Yeah, I wish that environmental event would happen more often. I think it's really cool.
Orders received.
The fact that Tiberian Sun has all these environmental events is really cool.
On my way.
Trevin Lane says, the enemy APCs are all launched from that small GDI sub-base. If taken out, they stop. I usually capture it using a vanguard of tick tanks and cyborgs. Fair enough.
Building.
So my question is, from what I remember, there's like an Easter egg to like the top left
Construction.
that I can get if I take the base with the APCs, but there's also a super easy way to beat this mission if I go through the top right. Which one would you guys prefer to see? Do you want me to just beat this mission quickly, or would you like to see the Easter egg? Let me know in the live chat. Vidit of Light. Hail once again, Man of Snow. I'm afraid I've fallen behind on commenting on your CNC documentaries, but I'm glad to catch a stream if only for a bit. Crush the thralls of the first wait. Heretic spotted in the chat, as we are no longer playing as GDI. Trevor Lane says, I think the meteor fall event is scripted.
Construction complete.
Okay, it looks like you guys would like to see the Easter egg. So, from what I researched, basically what I have to do is attack the base with the where the APCs are coming from, as Trevor Lane suggested. Attack a little bit of the one of the APCs so that it goes to repair itself, and then capture it so that I can get an APC, and then you can get to the top left. Snowman, do you know about the Australian show Danger 5? I believe I do. I think I've watched a lot of YouTube clips. I've never watched it directly. It's pretty funny. Aussie says, since your plate is not, are you going to spam the broken artillery? You bet I'm going to spam the broken artillery, assuming it hasn't been patched, since this is a version of the game that has Firestorm bundled with it.
Sir, orders received.
Okay.
Building.
All right. Let's get another Let's get another refinery out here so we can get our economy rolling, and then
Construction complete.
we will go from there.
Building.
Oh, also I haven't saved in a while. Guys, let me know when Shock Combo arrives, if he arrives.
Construction complete.
I have a little surprise. You know, one of the things I really like in my RTSs is when changes are made to gameplay for lore reasons, because that just makes it seem all the more real to me. One of those is during the Firestorm campaign, when you don't have any AI assistant until you capture Cabal. The other one is that you lose Cabal and you have to capture an Ava unit, and then for the rest of the Nod campaign in Firestorm, you have Ava giving you directions. I And I think the last one is the fact that once you lose your cyborgs as Nod, you get a new unit called the Elite Cadre, which has a very similar gun, but obviously doesn't have as much armor. To me, that's super cool, and I wish more games would do stuff like that. Mark Kalnick says, build more lasers! I will. I will. And we'll build one more of these as well. Or Glusman says, Swiss blood, it's made of money. I think it counteracts Hitler's magic. Super Challenge Bros says, tanks, build more tanks. Well, I get in trouble if I say that in a very bad Chinese accent. I feel like I will. Trevor Lane says the enemy attacks are one APC from the south, one from the west. DT rush from the north, DT rush from the east. Gotcha. DT, what is that? Luke Danger, Quai's advice is usually good for CNC in general. Yep, I would tend to agree. Romanov says, that's why I feel like Tiberian Sun in general is at the peak of RTS campaigns with how much fun stuff is in the missions. Yeah, I feel like a lot of RTSs these days try to be like, oh, we want this to be optimized for multiplayer and esports and that sort of thing, when statistically most people who play RTSs play it for the single-player campaign and skirmish and playing with friends. I mean, let's be real. Tiberian Sun and Red Alert 2 are not super well balanced, but people love those games because there's so much fun stuff you can do with them. It's about fun. It's about all the crazy things you can do in an RTS. It's not about perfect balance. Not that that can't create something great like with StarCraft 2, StarCraft, but, you know, I feel like that's kind of filled that niche. Okay, I think we're good. So let's build another power plant and a few more lasers, and then we'll build up our army. Ruinch, welcome to the chat. Alright, let's build up some Tic Tanks. And some cyborgs. Oh, disc throwers. Thank you. Okay. Or Glusman says, you know about the cut scenes from Tiberium Wars was the one where the GA soldiers come out of the mammoth tank with body armor from Star Troopers? I don't know about that. Trevor Lane says, there's a way to sneak into the enemy power supply production from the east. You'll need the engineer to repair the bridge. Gotcha. Kane, build me an army worthy of Nod. I believe that's a Lord of the Rings reference. Erg Luzman says, tomorrow I'm going to Tel Aviv Israel Animation College to see a guy that shows how to fix the ending of Game of Thrones using editing. Well, let me know how that goes. Alright, let's get some more scout units out. Ruinch, wait, do you know the secret Tiberian Dawn Mammoth Tank base in the mission? Good stuff.
On my way. Orders received.
Well, we will find out. Yeah. Try capturing my construction yard when it's surrounded by lasers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Orders received.
Oh, look, more Tiberium.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Moving out. Moving out.
Well, looks like the lasers did their jobs. And away we go. Yeah. What's interesting about this is that this is probably the era where Nod is the most on even footing with GDI of any of the games. While yes, Nod has had to hide somewhat, doing a lot of stuff underground with its vast network of underground tunnels, it honestly is probably the time where Nod can operate the most openly. GDI doesn't have their ion cannon network that's as devastating as it will be during the Tiberian Wars era. Nod is kind of given free reign to do what it wants in a world where the rest of the nations have completely fallen apart. Like, it's honestly... This is probably Nod's best shot at ruling the world, in my opinion.
Orders received. Orders received. Orders received. Yes, sir. Moving out.
And I think that's kind of reflected in the fact that Nod's units tend to be a bit more
On my way. Yes, sir.
straight up powerful. I mean, the Tick Tank,
Yes, sir.
say what you will about its in-game performance,
On my way.
but is probably the closest Nod has had to having just like a main battle tank that's not a light tank in any way. At least compared to the light tank in the Tiberian Dawn era and the Scorpion tank in the Tiberian Wars era.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Nod is extremely well funded. They can have things like cyborgs
Sufficient funds.
and a lot of other high-powered units.
Moving out. Unit ready. Sir.
It's just kind of crazy how that all works.
Unit lost.
Fine, I'll make a laser.
Unit ready.
Construction complete. Unit lost. Base under attack.
Here we go. Nice and crispy.
Unit orders received.
Okay. Duran Route says, I suppose the Firestorm crisis hit them had they given their status by CNC 3. Yeah, that... It not... I mean, yeah. I think the loss after Tiberian Sun really hit Nod hard.
Building.
I don't think Nod ever quite recovered. And like I said, all of GDI's space-based assets by the time we get to Tiberian Wars means that Nod has to really knuckle down and
Building.
not be as visible. Which is why it miffs me a little bit that Nod gets something as devastating as the Avatar during the Tiberian Wars era. It just doesn't feel like the type of era for them to have something like that. Oh, here it comes. And if they go south, I'm hosed. They're going south.
Construction complete. Low power.
You know, if you would just focus your lasers, that would be nice.
Building captured.
Engineering. No problem. No problem.
Building captured. Training.
Well, that wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Building. Unit ready. Building.
Not having access to advanced power plants is a bit of a buzzkill.
Building captured. Construction complete. Building.
Luke Danger, yeah, Nod got butchered in Firestorm. Not only are they recovering from Tiberian Wars 2, Cabal took the cyborgs and destroyed a lot of Nod where it hurt. I think they would have had a better chance had they still been run by Slavic, but he was taken out by,
Training.
as Kane says, a fanatic of Mother Marcion's. It's a little unclear based on that wording whether he was killed at Brother Marcion's direct instructions or if that was being done by just some overzealous follower and then Brother Marcion just took advantage. Either way, I think that was probably one of the biggest losses for the Brotherhood was losing Anton Slavic. I think
Unit ready.
the Brotherhood would have gone in a completely different direction. Because by the time Kane gets control of Brother Marcion has completely changed the way that the Black Hand has operates. On the one hand, you can argue that he greatly expanded the Black Hand and made it its own... Oh, Meteor Storm approaching.
Insufficient funds.
Anyway, he expands the Black Hand in such a way that it's a much bigger entity, and it's basically its own full sub-faction now that operates as its own division within Nod militarily. But at the same time, he also does away with a lot of the Black Hand's history as being a stealthy in the shadows organization. I mean, for goodness sake, they basically make stealth taboo within the Black Hand, so that they have no stealth tanks, they have no stealth generators. It's kind of crazy when that flies in the face of exactly what the Black Hand should have always been. But that was Brother Marcion's reforms. And by the time Kane gets control of him, the damage has already been done. And Kane can't make sweeping reforms like that in the other direction because, you know, he's supposed to be dead. He doesn't want anybody to know just yet. So if Anton Slavic had remained in control, I think the Black Hand might have been a very different organization. Curious on your guys' thoughts on that. Romanov says, not a fan of ELA's decision on Nod for Tib Wars Kane's Wrath in general. Yeah, I tend to agree, Romanov. Like, I like it for what it is. I'm not going to get too upset about it, but I will say it definitely feels like they were trying to make Nod and GDI more of a parallels for the War on Terror. So you could see that in the design for the Nod infantry, where they seem like just crazed militia, and there's not really like any of, you know, the cool light infantry that look like techno-religious infantry. The fact that a lot of their stuff seems ragtag, they're kind of hit and run. They feel more like Middle Eastern terrorists than they do the Eastern European sort of vaguely Egyptian Nod sort of guys. So that is my one kind of major gripe with the theming for Nod in the Tiberium Wars era. Kane's Wrath kind of started to go back to more of the Tiberian Sun Nod stuff, which I liked. Okay. Romanov says, they make AI taboo but have an AI-controlled Mantis drone. Yeah, there was a lot of weird decisions. Rumage says, I've seen a couple of your videos. I like them, but I don't think that sometimes all the good speculation is based on pretty much something that Westwood did not put much thought into. You're not wrong. Having talked allegedly with Joe Bostic on one of my streams and watched other interviews, a lot of the times they were like, hey, we were kind of making this stuff up as we went along. So a lot of the time it's like we were focused on the gameplay, we were focused on the technology, we were focused on the business side. The story stuff was the purview of, you know, the ideas of the founders like Brett Sperry, Adam Isgreen, Joe Bostic, Lewis Castle, with some dedicated story people like I.D. Larimore, and even Joe Kukan for some of the stuff about Brotherhood of Nod and Kane. That being said, if I have to choose between Westwood stuff and EA stuff, I tend to consider the Westwood stuff more canon on the whole. And I do think there's a lot of really cool story stuff that we never got to see explored. There probably isn't definitive answers for certain things because they just never had the chance to explore it. Ugh. Vititive Light says, I enjoyed what happened to Nod socially and such in Tib Wars, and it kind of makes sense how they develop. My gripe with Tib Wars is that they started setting up Ancient Aliens Kane. Yeah, I recently replayed through all of Kane's Wrath campaign, and I'm starting to think that that isn't what necessarily what the ELA team was thinking of. And my thoughts on that are, they are kind of introducing that maybe Kane is an alien, but it's not definitive. There's nothing definitive about Kane being an alien until CNC4, the game that shall not be named. So the reality, I think, is that they wanted to keep it ambiguous because there's a line in Kane's Wrath where he's talking directly to Legion after, I believe Marcion is talking about Kane and saying that Kane was a heretic, Kane was a false prophet. And then he quotes the Bible and says, is this the one who brought the kingdoms of man low? And then Kane responds, yes, it is. I am the one who has done this. Go, find Brother Marcion, bring him back into the fold. And usually at least in the EALA era, when Kane is talking that religiously and that like with much fervor, it's usually to his nod people, with sort of the implication that he's doing this for theatrics in order to, you know, get them to believe that he is something more than human, at least in a religious sense. But in this case, he's just talking to Legion. He's talking to his AI that is fully devoted to him. There's not really any need for that. So that makes me wonder, was ELA trying to say... Okay. Was ELA trying to say that this is what Kane actually believes behind closed doors when no one is watching? Now, that could be, you know, an alien in exile that is starting to believe his own hype, or they could be trying to say that the whole alien stuff was a red herring and he still is king from the Bible. Maybe that's copium, but again, just looking back, it's kind of interesting how ambiguous, even during the EALA era, it is until you get to CNC4 where they make it definitive. And part of me wonders if, like, the team at EALA was still trying to figure out what it was they wanted to do with Kane, and they were opening up other options, but may have still gone with the biblical Kane storyline that Westwood was setting up. But when EA forced them to basically say, hey, you got to turn this into CNC4 and make a definitive game, and they had to end the storyline quickly, they just didn't have the time to flesh it out and keep it as mysterious as they may have liked. That is kind of the idea that I'm starting to think that might be canon. But I don't know, I'm curious in your guys' thoughts. Bit of the Light says, not confirmed, but a very interesting theory. We all know CNC4 was slapped together from another game anyway. Maybe the story was slapped together with similar carelessness or lack of intent. Yeah, I don't... Like, the guys who worked on CNC4 were the same guys who were making CNC3 and Kane's Wrath, which I love a lot of the stuff from that game. So to me, I try not to hold it against any of those guys, what happened with CNC4. To me, that is entirely EA's greed and their fault for basically being like, oh, we want another game. We want it to compete with... Holy shrimp, we got Titans! And they can outrange everything. Yeah, so I don't like to hold it against those guys. They basically got told to make a game they didn't want to make, and when it failed, their studio got shut down in punishment for something that they were never even wanted to do in the first place. Which EA does a lot, and that is just so ridiculously unfair. So as much as I hate CNC4, I will never, ever hold it against the developers, because it wasn't their fault. Luke Danger says, yeah, the CNC4 team were originally told they were making essentially a mobile game for multiplayer, then they got told to make it a single-player game and had to rush everything as a grand finale. Exactly. That is just an awful position to be put in. Shot Combo. Oh, hey, Shot Combo. Those lasers and zap sound effects are so great. Now that you're here, Shot Combo, I think I should test something. I don't know if it's going to work, but we'll see if it does. Let's see if it works. And. Okay, I think it's working. All right. So Shot Combo, he is the first member of my channel. I'll be honest, guys, I didn't hype up anything going on with my membership stuff and the benefits because I didn't really think anybody was going to become a member of my channel, and I really wasn't expecting it because, I'll be honest, YouTube basically got a hold of me and was like, hey, if you start memberships on your channel, we'll give you like a $600 bonus just for doing that. And I was like, woohoo, free money. So I started memberships on my channel, and I didn't think I was a big enough channel or able to give enough benefits to anybody for that to be worth it. So I didn't want to hype it up because I kind of felt like a jerk being like, oh, sign up for my crappy membership. I didn't want to do that. So this was purely for me to steal money from YouTube. So, but then Shot Combo did, and I was like, shoot, So one of the benefits of being a member is that we highlight a comment of theirs and put it at the end of our videos. But I'm on break right now, so it's going to be like weeks, if not months, before I get around to making a video. And I wanted to reward him for helping me out. So I tried this out. Here is a comment that I really liked from one of our previous posts. I believe it was on what is our favorite super weapon of Nod. Specifically, he was talking about the chemical missile and saying that he thought that the nukes go by really fast, but that there's something fun about how the... this is really small. Is it really small on your screen? It's really small on mine. I think I needed to redo that because that is... I can barely read that. But basically the idea that chemical missiles have a lot more gameplay variance with the clouds, and if there's infantry, you can turn them into visceroids, and just having more mechanically deep super weapons is really cool. So I agree with that. I wish there was more interesting stuff like that. Okay, we're going to get back to the game, assuming that all of my hotkeys work. Let's get back. Thank you, Shot Combo, for being a member of the channel. Really appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the channel. Let's see. Can we get back? Yes, we can. All right. Woohoo! No. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. All right. I think our base is defended, so let's go get them.
Yes, sir. No problem waiting.
Welcome to the jungle. We got cyborgs and tick tanks.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Unit report on my way.
Oh, really? We got... Okay, well... Ion Storm destroying my stuff. Canonically, the events of Renegade push back Nod's cyborg program by 30 years. I believe, according to Adam Isgreen, in a article with PC Gamer, which I was able to get a digital copy of. All of that is going to the video that will describe the time that I think the First Tiberium War occurred in. Trevor Lane says, VT South. What does that mean? Okay. Alright, let's save here. We want to try and do this right. Alright, let's get you guys over here. Okay, so I think what we need to do, what they mentioned on the wiki, is we have to shoot at an amphibious APC to get it to go onto the pad, then capture it so we can capture that along with it. Senchat says, conflict of interest? I have interest in conflict. Exactly. Cyborgs, move up. Here we go. Shoot it. There we go. Okay. Nope. Shoot it a bit more. Shoot, 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 shoot. Silos needed. What you really mean is not enough tanks. Okay, let's try this again. It's supposed to work. I don't know if it actually will in practice. Okay. Good idea, Trevin Lane. All right, come on, go to the repair pad. Come on, go to the repair pad. Oh, good idea. Snowman, to find the cutscene I talked about, search on YouTube Command Conquer 3 Tiberium Wars cutscenes #1. Will do. Is there a reason they're not going to repair themselves? This is supposed to work. I'll show them. Do I have to wait until I can capture the war factory up north? Or maybe I can just capture this, and maybe I can build my own war factory. Who is this goober?
Building captured.
Alright. Oh, we can build one. Harvester under attack. That's probably just the Ion Storm.
Unit ready.
Alright, let's build a GI war factory and see what happens. So will I lose the mission when the timer goes down, or is that just how long the Ion Storm is happening?
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. No problem. Yes, sir. No problem. Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
No problem.
Training.
More power.
Captured.
Oh, we lose when the time is out. Okay. Or Guzman says, by the way, not have F-22 Raptors in the First War. Apparently,
Unit ready.
I think that is really just down to, again, the U.S. defense contractor scandal where they were secretly supplying NOD and the UN forces. Okay, hard time limit. Good to know. All right, can we actually build...
Construction complete. New construction.
No, we can't. Gosh dang it. What am I supposed to do then? I can't get this thing to go onto the... I can't get up to that base unless this thing goes onto the pad.
Engineer affirmative.
Base under attack.
Oh, is it going? Oh, it's going. I think it's... Oh, no, it's not. Come on.
Training.
I don't think it's going to go, guys. Unless you guys can figure out a way for me to get a hold of a APC, I'm just going to keep moving forward.
Engineering affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Sir.
Alright. Let's build some Titans while we're at it.
Building captured. Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Moving out. Orders received. Orders received.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Waiting order.
Nod Titans, let's go. Won't be the first time in this campaign, I can guarantee you that. Sorry, last time. Won't be the last time.
Yes, sir. On my way. No problem.
Unit
No
ready.
problem. No problem.
Unit ready.
Orders received. Unit reporting. Moving out.
They patch out that trick? I hope not. Vidit of Light says, I will comment on this more when I comment on your GDI video, but did you ever hear that the Dead Six that became GDI only was exposed when a mission to kill Saddam Hussein failed? Yeah, I've heard that. I have never been able to confirm that. Every place I look, that's something that is not... I haven't been able to find any hard evidence that actually happened, but that is a rumor that gets thrown around the community a lot. If somebody can find me a link or some hard evidence to where something in Westwood material says that is the case, but otherwise, I think it's just something that gets repeated around a lot. Because I think it has something to do with the fact that we know that Spec Ops, Black Ops 9 was basically turned into GDI in the 90s, and one of the most high-profile assassinations during that time, or at least attempts, was Saddam Hussein in the 90s. So I think people have speculated that that's the case, but I don't think that's ever definitively said. Or Gluzman says, you know, in Syria, they pride themselves on religious tolerance. So the synagogues are both Sephardic and Ashkenazi, churches, again, both Catholic and Orthodox, Temple of God, and mosques. I did not know that. But I guess that makes sense because I know the Balkans is a pretty, like, religiously diverse area and has a lot of history of violence because of that. So it would make sense that if they wanted any sort of peace, they basically would have to embrace tolerance on some level. I don't know as much about Eastern European history as I would like. Every season of my life, I go through a different era of history that I would like to know more about. Most recently, it was the Napoleonic era. and now I'm starting to try and learn more about African history, pre-colonization. But another one that's a blind spot for me is Eastern European history. I recently learned more about the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, which was absolutely fascinating era of medieval history.
Unit lost.
Tick tanks, if you could move up a bit, that would be great.
Unit lost.
I'm gonna need more cyborgs. Or just throwers.
Unit lost. Unit ready. Unit ready.
Sure, I only need to destroy the radar, but I really want to humiliate my enemy.
Unit ready.
Yeah, Titans are better than Tick tanks, the danger.
Yes, sir.
Base under attack.
Orders received. No problem.
Bit of Light says, Titans should be better than Tick tanks considering the respective faction doctrines. Absolutely. I don't have a problem with that.
Yes, sir. You got it.
I just wish that maybe the Tick tanks were a bit cheaper than the Titans to compensate. But what are you going to do?
Yes, sir.
Orc Guzman says, I was at the Sephardic synagogues in Sarajevo. Oh, that's cool. I really want to travel to Europe at some point.
Orders received.
Me and my fiance talked about it briefly as a possibility. Maybe someday in the future.
20 minutes remaining.
Okay, fine. We'll destroy it. Alright, radar's gone.
Unit lost.
I feel like... Is it just me, or do I feel like the budget ran out after they made all of the CGI cutscenes and victory videos for GDI, and there's like barely anything left over for Nod? I feel like there's like very few cool cutscenes for Nod, as far as like purely CGI victory screens. Alright. Luke Danger says, what is best in life? To see your enemy driven before you, to steal their harvesters, and hear the lamentations of their Avas. That sounds like something D-Trade would say. What is that in reference to? I'm blanking on that, but it sounds familiar. Or Glusman says, one day the greatest European war will come out of some damn foolish thing in the Balkans. Otto von Bismarck. Ah, man of history. You are correct. Otto von Bismarck was one of the most brilliant statesmen and wielder of nations I have ever heard of in history. Kind of a personification of a man with enough will can, like, turn the fates of nations. Will and intelligence. Otto von Bismarck really knew how to advance his country in a way that was strategic and that wouldn't get too much people on his back. You could argue he went a little too far in taking the Alsace-Lorraine, which was something that ticked the French off at them for decades, and in part was why the Treaty of Versailles was so damaging. But on the whole, Otto von Bismarck was a brilliant statesman. Vidit of Light said, did it ever strike anyone as odd that Nod praises Tiberium and Tib wars and then complains that GDI claimed the pristine blue zones for themselves, leaving them all Tiberium contaminated zones? Yeah, it was a bit weird. I have thought about that. I'm not really sure if that's a plot hole, an inconsistency, or just the nature of Nod basically teaching and preaching different things to different levels of their cult, and whatever is necessary. I'm not sure. Curious in your guys' thought. Okay. Hey, Snowman, this is the month of Tishrei. Is there some significance to that? Let me know if there is. Okay. Chase Baker says spent all of their money on the Devil's Tongue running that poor dude over. That is a great cutscene. All right, let's move on. Okay, it's 11:20. Let's see. Now it'll be 12:30. Okay, I still got a lot of time. Oh no, is this a fixed force mission? Is this the screenship mission? Ooh. Luke Danger. Yeah, Killian's speech in the Nod Tiberium Wars intro is just so blatantly hypocritical. It is. It's very revisionist history. Or Glusman says, politics is the art of the possible, the attainable, the art of the next best. Otto von Bismarck. Yeah, that was honestly Otto von Bismarck's strength, is that he knew what he wanted, but also what he realistically could get and maintain. Hitler's problem was that he wanted everything. He was a mustache twirling supervillain that wanted to rule the world, thought he could take Britain, thought he could take the Soviet Union. And even if he could initially militarily, would he have been able to maintain it as a German empire and not have just constant Russian rebellions or British rebellions from people? Probably not. But, you know, the man was the definition of short-term goals and just being run entirely by emotion. So, he was no Otto von Bismarck. Luke Danger says, it is basically doublethink. Tiberium is good because Nod says it is. GDI is bad because Nod is left with the consequences of their actions and recklessly spreading Tiberium. Yeah, you're not wrong, Luke Danger. Vidalite says, I agree, and that's probably kind of the point. Duran Route says, I always thought of it as Nod's propaganda machine. Luke Danger says, luckily it isn't the Scrin ship mission. That's the one after this one. Okay, then here we go.
Taking out this weak GDI position will allow us to reclaim our Sarajevo temple without interruption. Move to an open area and build your base. GDI patrols are known to be in the area. Do not mar the Brotherhood's name any further.
That one line has been living rent-free in my brain ever since I was a kid. Do not mar the Brotherhood's name any further. The fact that even your AI seems to be a religious nutjob is kind of incredible. Let's see. Trevor Lane says, it isn't the Scrin ship. This is Reclaiming Temple Prime Sarajevo. Senchat says, Snowman, because you like politics, anyone who has vision should go to the doctor. Can you say who said that? I don't know. Also, I never said I like politics. If anything, I don't want to talk about, at least nothing modern day. I love history. And particularly because it's very deep. It feels like lore, but real life lore, and it's actually somewhat useful. And it helps me inform and remain objective about modern day politics, at least a little bit. I'd like to think that it does. I think history is something that is far more useful to be taught to people than trying to engage in modern day politics, at least until you feel like you've got a better sense of how we got to where we are. But then again, don't listen to me. I am a snowman who likes to run around on sunny days, so what do I know? That is good. I need to put that on a t-shirt. Romanov says, more on the incapability of Britain and France and the insane amount of purging done within the Soviet ranks of Stalin. In what regard? To be fair, almost he got it if it weren't for the U.S. involvement. Yeah, that is something that, Romanov, you make a good point. That's something that people don't really think about, is a lot of people say, like, oh, it was the Soviet Union that saved Europe, not U.S., not Britain, you know. And to a certain degree, I get where they're coming from, because, you know, most of the casualties came from the Soviet Union. But a lot of people forget the Soviet Union would not have been able to prosecute the war the way they did if it wasn't for U.S. Lend-Lease. We were sending stuff through the Baltic Sea and then up from the south overland, and that really helped the Soviets to keep up the momentum and push back against the Germans. I don't think Russia would have been nearly as successful if it wasn't for the U.S. Lend-Lease. And if nothing else, all of the U.S. and British attacks on the western part of Europe basically kept Western Europe out of Soviet hands. And you can ask Poland if that's a good or a bad thing. Luke Danger says, real life lore is basically what history is if you think about it. Exactly. That's why I love fantasy. That's why I love sci-fi. I love Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Narnia, things like that. A lot of the Brandon Sanderson stuff. I love all that. And I love history because they all kind of scratch that same itch for me. Vid of Light says the only politics here should be GDI and Nod. Exactly. Vid of Light gets it. There's too much. Everything in life is so polarized and politicized. This is my one area of life where I can just pretend none of that exists and just talk about GDI and Nod. And I'd like to keep it that way. Please, my community, never let that change. Trevin Lane says, there is a way to easily kill the nearest GDI Vulcan tower on the west. Oh, wait, is that on the west side of the map? Tower, okay. Or maybe Allies and Soviets, which is a bit more real world, but still, right. Romana says, did Germany have an insane early advantage in World War II? Oh, okay. Yeah, gotcha. Bit of Light says, don't forget the Western Allied bombing campaign that alone kept a third of Germany's artillery and the best pilots dedicated to home defense and the damage the bombings did. Yes, you are correct. The bombing campaign did a lot. It also bombed a lot of the prototypes that Germany had, like their stealth bomber program and their jet plane program. So, for sure. Romanov said, one of the top Soviet generals who was an insane Stalin bootlicker, hated SMGs, and thought vehicles can't outbeat horses. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Stalin was constantly purging, and he lost a lot of his best generals because he was an insane, paranoid dictator. Just the idea of having to work in any of the upper echelons of the army under Stalin just sounds terrifying to me. Trevor Lane says, they are still running through the food we sent them. We sent so many trucks that they stopped building them. Dang. I assume you're talking about the U.S. Lend-Lease to the Soviets. Orguzman says, Snowman, do you know about Hearts of Iron 4 mod, TNO The New Order, Last Days of Europe? This mod shows that even if we give the Nazis everything they want, they will still screw it up. Yeah, no. I think as long as Hitler is in charge of Germany in the war, it ends in disaster. The more I learn about Hitler, the more it seems that he was very self-destructive, either consciously or unconsciously. And a lot of times in a wartime economy and a conquering mindset, if you don't have the ability to maintain, you just burn yourself out until you burn everything to the ground. And that very much seemed like that was Hitler's mindset. As opposed to something like Napoleon, who was very good at also like ruling and maintaining the things that he had. Senchat says, that line is the former and not anymore alive German Chancellor Helmut Schmidt, the guy famous for the 1970s terror. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Myra Yachan says, it is a biologically augmented your AI. That's right. He is a biologically augmented AI. Lou Danger says, logistics is so huge in war, but it's so often glossed over. People so often ignore it and imagine just taking it from the field. That doesn't work out for anything but a quick raid. Yeah, you're not wrong. Logistics is the lifeblood of war, and many wars have been won or lost based off of what you do with your logistics. Duran Rout says, America during World War II in a nutshell. When you can bankroll literally everyone and build a battleship in 2 months win. Yeah, I think it was a Japanese admiral that said, when we realized that the Americans not only were able to build like battleships and aircraft carriers, but also build entire ships dedicated to supplying ice cream to the sailors and Marines, we realized we had lost. Yeah, look up the World War II ice cream ships. It's a real thing. Romanov says, now, if the top echelon want to be purged, it's debatable how the Soviets fare in the Winter War and World War II, such as going straight into Helsinki and the OG plans instead of spreading across all of the Finnish border. True. Vidit of Light says, logistics is king in war, and there's a part of the U.S. military strength. The best tactics won't save you if your men lack the food and ammo to carry them out. Exactly, and that is America's strength to project power across the entire world, as they have an insanely good logistics program and an insanely good navy. Luke Danger says, America can airlift a frickin' Burger King so the troops can have some fast food. There's a reason the U.S. is the arsenal of democracy. Exactly. And also just the Navy. The Navy that the U.S. has is bigger than most of the other navies around the world combined. If the U.S. were ever to be defeated, it's basically due to asymmetrical warfare like what happened in Vietnam and Afghanistan. As well as what's depicted with the GLA in 0 Hour generals. That's really the only way you can defeat the USA. In a one-on-one fight, there's no beating us, for better or worse. Vidit of Light says America is skilled in practice at keeping armies supplied and battle-ready across the world. Panzer1509 says, that reminds me of Max Miller making that World War II Navy ice cream on YouTube. Oh, yeah, exactly what I was talking about. Oh, Firestorm855, welcome to the chat. The Germans realized they lost when they took a U.S. position and found a fresh chocolate cake from New York. Dang. All right, one more comment and then we'll move in. Luke Danger says, admittedly, part of that was we have to have stupid good logistics because those oceans that keep us out of a land war also means that we have a lot to overcome to project our force abroad. Very true. Okay, I lied. Trevor Lane says we won every field battle in Vietnam. The war was lost on the home front. I do agree with that a little bit because you're not wrong. Even the Tet Offensive, which was a massive, attack and surprise attack from on all fronts on South Vietnam by the Viet Cong and the North Vietnam Army, we technically beat back the Tet Offensive. They didn't take any cities. They didn't take any bases. We completely won the Tet Offensive. But that's not what mattered. What mattered was we were taken completely by surprise, and it was a PR nightmare that something like this could happen, and that it was this hard to basically fight a war with no front lines, where there was fighting all over the country. And that was the real... So even though they technically lost on the field, the North Vietnamese, I think, actually won that engagement in the sense that they completed their goal of making it a PR nightmare for the U.S. on the home front. I don't know if there's really any way you win the war, even if you have full support, just because with the Viet Cong and everything, and a very incompetent South Vietnamese government, like, is there any way to prop that up in any way that stays alive without having to, like, go scorched earth and actually invade North Vietnam, go through Laos and Cambodia, and possibly get the ire of the Chinese, like what happened in the Korean War? I don't know. I'd like to think there was a way to win the war, but honestly, we were left with such a crap show after the French left, because the French kept trying to hold on to their overseas colonies instead of just letting go. Even Britain was like, okay, we have to let go of some of these things. The winds of change are coming, as Mike Wazowski would say. We need to just let this go. France was like a bulldog trying to hold on to their colonies long after colonization was a dead idea. And that really screwed over everyone. In my opinion. I'm probably oversimplifying it and blaming the French because I'm American and I like to blame the French. All right, let's get started. As much as I would love to keep talking history, you guys have no idea how much I enjoy this. And the fact that you guys all like talking about it too is fantastic. A lot of my favorite YouTube channels are history channels. Places like The Armchair Historian, Vlogging Through History. I used to watch a lot of Simple History, not as much now. History Matters is fantastic. And Kings and Generals. Kings and Generals is peak. If you guys have ever watched Kings and Generals coverage of the Ukraine War, it's basically how I get my news on the Ukraine War. Is just by watching that, because they do month-to-month coverage of like everything that's going on politically, with if the Ukrainians are getting deals to get more ammo and supplies, what's going on in Russia, militarily at each of the fronts and the lines, what towns and oblasts are being taken. It's absolutely incredible. If you haven't watched Kings and Generals coverage of like month-to-month of the Ukraine War, and you're interested in that, you owe it to yourself to take a look at it. It is incredible. And I love the fact that there's something, because I used to watch History Channel and the Military Channel all the time when I was a kid, and a lot of that has gone the way of, you know, Pawn Stars and everything else, and just not like anything history related on the History Channel anymore. But I feel like a lot of independent YouTube creators have picked up the slack and have made some absolutely pristine history channels on YouTube that are honestly better than even what History Channel was on TV in its prime. Okay, Trevor Lane says, Vietnam is just starting to recover the population they lost in the war. Yeah. All in all, Vietnam seems like they're pretty chill with us these days, despite everything. And honestly, for a country that eventually was overcome by communism, they actually came out of it pretty well. Like, they definitely did a lot better than North Korea did. And I'm happy that Vietnam seems to be doing a lot better. Let's see, there's a comment up. Sensat says, the problem with the Vietnam was the U.S. was trained so much for a classic war they lost because they had no clue how to go against a guerrilla army. Exactly. I think they've done a lot better with the war on terror, but even then, it kind of was a no-win scenario. People have made points about the fact that, like, you could rebuild Japan, you could rebuild Germany, because they at least had some foundation of a democracy. Afghanistan and Iraq really didn't have a history of democracy, so you weren't rebuilding a society. You were trying to build democratic principles in a culture from scratch, and that was always going to be an almost impossible war to win. I don't remember this mission at all. Am I just not remembering this? There's some good comments up here. Luke Danger. So, want some freedom fries with Blade of the Gosh, you guys remember freedom fries? It was the post 9/11 era. and we started like getting super patriotic, and so we decided that we were going to rename certain things like French fries into freedom fries. What a time. What a time. I'm going to have to explain that to my kids someday. Panzer says, History Civilis is my favorite, but they only post like twice a year. I've not heard of Historia Civilis. I'm going to have to look that up. Vidal of Light says, glad you enjoy it. So do we, obviously. It makes sense. We flocked to your channel as you talked about ancient biblical lore and the history of, or potential history of the CNC timelines. Yeah, that's kind of where my interests lie. Theology, history, ancient stories. All of that just fascinates me.
Construction complete. New construction options.
Trevin Lane says, we could have won it, but we kept half-assing it, relying on trying to intimidate them with air power didn't work, and the RVN army was not well able to do the job. Yeah, I don't really know how you would prosecute the war in a way that we win while still like not getting China involved or not invading Laos and Cambodia or directly North Vietnam. It just kind of seemed like an unwinnable war. I don't know how you do that without making it worse. And there's also the idea that, you know, you can't force a people to like not choose communism. I think that was mainly the US's problem throughout most of the Cold War, is they would prop up fascist dictators or others as long as they weren't communist, and then the people would hate the US because it's like, you're letting this evil dictator rule us. And we were like, well, yeah, but we don't want communism, when a lot of the places that replaced them were just as bad because, you know, horseshoe theory. Yeah, it's just, it was such a complicated thing. I don't know if there's any way you could actually win that through force of arms when there's the will of the people to be considered. And, you know, self-determination, that's another factor. You know, do we really want to have to enforce American hegemony through the barrel of a gun when we should be respecting self-determinism? I know there's complicated times where like you have to because of, you know, immediate dangers, but I think a lot of times in the Cold War we would send in the CIA and ruin whole regimes in the name of preserving freedom or getting rid of communism, and it would just make things so much worse. And this is coming from a guy who is very critical of communism as a system, just to be clear. I think just objectively, you have to be aware that communism is a very flawed system, and at the very least, you have to admit historically, is extremely hard to implement correctly if you want to go that route. If you want to be optimistic about communism, you have to at least be objective and understand, like, okay, if communism is as good as you say, at least admit, apparently people keep screwing it up. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Luke Danger says, the other issue was we were propping up a government that was very unpopular. There are some things you can't resolve with soldiers unless your plan is to conquer bills. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was saying. Trevor Lane says, there's pretty good TIB fields on this map. The blue TIB on the west side of the map and a train at the town you can use against GDI. Good idea. Yes, history is complicated. Senchat says, HSC Snowman, there's even the funniest thing as you say, as they back Saddam during his war, but just years later kick his butt. Yeah, no, we do that a lot. We're not very good at picking who will and won't be our enemies in the future.
Construction complete.
Okay. And I think that's kind of my problem with modern politics is we'll see people who, you know, rightly see the problems with something like, say, communism, and then they'll swing to the other extreme and be like, okay, therefore the U.S. can never do anything wrong abroad, and we should be willing to do what we want. Or they'll people be like, self-determinism is great, and then they'll excuse all the evils of communism. I feel like we try to find sanctuary in the extremes because we feel like we're being attacked culturally and that we can't afford to lose a culture fight or something like that, and then we lose all objectivity. And it just becomes a mudslinging match instead of thinking about things rationally. And honestly, I think the only way you really get out of that is just by learning to be a good person and be nice to people and be kind to them. you know, it's things like this. It's creating spaces like this where we're just people who love Command and Conquer, and if you can learn to see other people as people and not as political opponents and just as people you want to help out, then I think you've created a space for rational discourse and, you know, a place where people don't feel because people, I think honestly, most people don't have super extreme ideologies. They will say maybe extreme things because they feel like they're being attacked and they feel like they have to have their voices heard. Whereas if you feel like you're being heard and you don't feel helpless, you feel a lot safer to engage in more compromise and rational thought. I think people engage more and adopt more extreme views because they feel like compromise would result in their voice being silenced. I don't know. Does that make sense? Maybe I'm just talking out of my butt and that doesn't make any sense, but... Duran Root, my personal opinion on communism is what we've seen in the free trial, then I don't want the full experience. Yeah, I mean, I think some socialist ideas might work in practice, but yeah, for the most part, at the very least, I'm not like, hey, let's just implement communism. That's got to be good because of how screwed up our capitalism is. And don't get me wrong, like our healthcare system in America is awful. We're basically run by a lot of monopolies that should have been broken up years ago. We have laws on the book that are anti-monopoly, but somehow they just aren't getting enforced. So, like, I get why people engage with socialistic ideas and why communism seems very appealing, and I don't blame them. But yeah, given history, I think we should not just be like, okay, because of how bad capitalism is, communism is our savior. I think given the history of communism's implementation, we should be very cautious about communism. And I think that's what annoys me most is people seem to think that communism poses no dangers. And again, that's the extremism argument. Because of how bad capitalism can get in society, we think that we're safe in the extreme on the other side. Oh, do I remember this mission, actually? Oh, here we go. Oh, wait a minute. Just destroy this. How could I deprive you guys of this cool moment? Styles RJ. Hey, welcome to the chat. I've seen you make a lot of comments on my posts recently. Really appreciate your insight. There we go. You say, so what's your favorite unnecessary side level in Tiberian Sun? That's a good question. I think for GDI, it's probably either the one where you have to destroy the radar arrays, even though that's a hard mission. I just think it's a really cool setup. Or it's the one where you have to, the secret one, where you can get the Ghost Stalker into a train and you destroy the power grid. I think that's really cool. Let's save. I have not saved in a while. And that's going to bite me in the butt someday. I just know it. Romanov. Unfortunately, modern politics is the politics of decade-long corporations dominating lobbies. Yeah, and I think when people hear stuff like you say that, like that, Romanov, I think there's a tendency for people on the right to think, oh, you're a communist and that sort of thing. And I try to, like, look at history and be like, okay, no. There is some truth to that. Think about it objectively and that sort of thing, because you have to be honest. Yeah, corporations have gotten a lot of power. And really any power structure, whether it be corporation, government, you know, even mob rule, I suppose, having too much concentrated power is always a bad thing. And that should be something that any side of the political spectrum should be able to come together on. Should. Benjamin Dillapani, extreme capitalism is bad, not capitalism in general. Yeah, that's generally my position. I think if you have an oligarchy or monopolies, you don't actually have a free market, because the whole point of a free market is that you're constantly shaking up things. Corporations and politicians are like dirty diapers. They need to be changed often. And through politics, we do that with elections. And with corporations, it should be done through a free market where there's always a young and hungry company ready to treat their customers better and build a better product that will be able to unseat somebody who's at the top through innovation. If you've basically done things like lobbying or creating laws and tax breaks and things like that that make it harder for new companies to unseat the old ones, now I think we're starting to get away from a free market economy, and we're not able to constantly shake up who's in power in the free market, and then we start to lose our liberty in that regard. At least that's my opinion, given what I know. If anybody has a counterpoint, I'm open to that. Orguzman says, America should have sided with the Viet Minh after World War II and forced the French to decolonize Indochina, so they will side with America, not the USSR. After all, the Viet Minh was not just communists. Yeah, I know, you raised a good point, and I've said this a lot in private conversations. I think the U.S. would have been better served by siding sometimes with communists if it meant getting them away from the USSR. I think that would have been a much better strategy, objectively speaking, and it would have created a lot more trust in the U.S. to actually be a force for decolonization. But, I mean, that's also assuming that all of the forces in America were necessarily altruistic. And given what the CIA got up to during the Cold War, I know that's not always the case, and it's probably naive to assume that that is the case. Trevor Lane says that Isthmus is the only way for the Wolverines and Titans to attack you. You will need defenses against AAPC raids. Great. They love doing that, don't they? Alright, I think you can probably make a rush across with the Tic Tanks I have. Romanov. Worst thing about communism being used in discourse is people thinking it's the only regime where totalitarianism can exist instead of understanding the actual issues. Yeah, no, you raise a good point. That's kind of what I talk about when I say horseshoe theory. You go too far to the left, you get communism. You go too far to the right, you get fascism. And they both end up looking very similar. The Stalinist communist regime is very fascist, mostly because if you're going to have that much centralized control of the economy and the state, you kind of need to have a police state if you're going to enforce those things. So communism, you get it too far, usually ends up looking like fascism and vice versa. Like you have fascism in Nazi Germany, which technically allowed for free markets and private property, but in reality, all of those factories and companies ended up having to serve the war machine of the German army. So at a certain point, power centralizing is just dictatorship and totalitarianism. You know, politics be darned. It doesn't really matter at that point once you've given that much power to a centralized institution. And as much as I do caution, because I think in American culture, especially in academia, there is a lot less fear of communism. So a lot of that, my thoughts on that are reactionary of like, we should be a lot more cautious about communism. But you're right. Really, communism is not the only danger. And you could have the same thing. People could be so afraid of communism or so miffed with the idea of, oh, nobody's taking communism too seriously, that they go in the other direction. They think there's no danger in aggressive right-wing ideologies. That's why I think it's a good thing to have people in your friend circle and people in your community who are on different parts of the political spectrum, because even if you are absolutely certain that your side has most of the right ideas, you will have blind spots. And if you're always in an echo chamber, there's the possibility of you falling into, really bad ideas. Laser turrets on the entrance of your base. I will do that. Styles this jar. I'm learning a lot already. They say democracy is the worst form of government except all the others that have been tried. Winston Churchill. Yeah, and hopefully we'll come up with even better government. I don't think we've reached the pinnacle of economic or political thought. And I hope that we continue to have an educated and brilliant populace and thinkers who will come up with new and improved ways to run things. Because I don't think we've reached the apex of political and economic thought. Don't ask me what those new ideas are. I have no idea, but... Okay. Build some cyborgs. Benjamin Dillman. Honestly, if the Brotherhood of not exist in our world, how would you react? Ugh. That would be terrifying. especially if it was the Tiberian Dawn iteration, just because initially they're not seen as a terrorist organization. They're operating on, the stock market. They've got political ties in other places. They're helping out revolutions in so many places. They would have their tendrils in so many things, and it would be impossible to nail them down as a political entity on any side of the political spectrum. You would just have so many people with so... This is early. Good thing I built rocket soldiers. Yeah, like, you would have so many varying opinions of Nod from people that it would be incredibly hard to get any sort of opposition to them, at least unified. It would be a terrifying force in society. Okay, I think there's something to the right, maybe? If I remember correctly. I'm trying to remember. I think there's something to the right. Luke Danger says, hopes that GDI forms soon, because if we're staring down Tiberium IRL, we'll need the Rim to address it rather than having to constantly fight Nod to spread the alien murder around. Yeah. I was talking with the D-Train about this earlier, but, like, as much as I would be opposed to the idea of, like, a one-world government, in theory... Oh, they're trying to evacuate civilians. If the threat was big enough, like, something like Tiberium as, like, a world-ending existential problem, that might be the one time where I would accept something like GDI. But it would have to be something really extreme like Tiberium. I'm going to need more cyborgs. They're sending a lot of infantry at me. Ugh. Ah. Crap. Okay. Ah. Yeah. Okay. What is your favorite CNC song soundtrack? Good question, dear on route. I like a lot of the Tiberian Sun soundtrack. I think Dusk Hour is really great. Slave to the System is an absolute fire song. And most of the general soundtrack is pretty incredible to me. I don't know if I could pick just one, though. Oh, that's right. We can do routes, which I only learned recently. I did not know that was a thing. Yeah, I'm gonna need more anti-infantry. Oh, look, it's the enemy base. Let's save. Where's my Snowman? Snowman 4. Styles Estuary. A lot of people would unironically scream down with GDI even if Tiberium was ravaging their homes. Yeah, I suppose it would.
Yes, sir.
Let's go. Styles RJ. Heck, I'm sure you'd have people supporting Cabal even if their lugbloods are being turned to mindless cyborgs. In a world as extreme as Tiberian Sun, where the world is like that close to the edge of extinction, people will have extreme reactions. I mean, that's kind of why I want to do a video essay on Nod, specifically the Nod campaign, even though it's a what-if campaign for this era. Because as insane as the idea of divination sounds, in a world where GDI really hasn't come up with any counter to Tiberium until the very end of the Firestorm crisis, it makes sense that people would basically be fighting for Nod and fighting for a world where we could actually adapt to what we view as a hopeless situation where Tiberium has already won. It makes sense to me. People have really crazy reactions to extreme situations. Doesn't necessarily justify it, but I at least understand it. Miraya-chan says, well, calling universal healthcare communism is something I don't understand about the U.S. Dropping an old lady out of her wheelchair in front of a hospital because she has no insurance to cover. Yeah, I've become a lot more open to the idea of that. I know there are certain dangers to that, but overall, like there's got to be something we do with healthcare. The way it is now cannot remain. There has to be some sort of change. I don't know enough about the impact that universal healthcare would have on us to speak specifically on the dangers. I do think we should be sober-minded about it, but at this point, like, because I know we tried with Obamacare back in the 2010s, and that was kind of a mess, both with the website and its implementation. It raised a lot of people's rates so that it priced them out, a lot of middle-class people of being able to pay for it. So I do think it's not a blanket solution. If you are going to do it, you have to do it smart, and you have to do it in a way that doesn't screw over a certain center of the population. And you also have to remember that Europe was basically built around the idea of a welfare state after World War II. A lot of their defense was subsidized by the U.S., so they had a lot more money to spend on healthcare and state healthcare. And they kind of built their economies around the idea of, all right, you are going to be paying a lot more taxes, everyone, but you're going to get a lot more state welfare benefits and things like that, which makes a lot of sense. The U.S. isn't built for that. It doesn't mean it can't change, but that would be necessarily a learning curve for a lot of people, and a lot of people would get hurt initially until you built that up, especially with our states. There's a lot of poor states in the South, like Mississippi and Tennessee, that are used to not paying a lot of taxes, and their state economies are built around not paying a lot of taxes. In fact, I think Tennessee doesn't even have state taxes, income taxes. It's all sales tax. So I think a lot of people underestimate the ability to implement European ideas in the U.S. The U.S. is huge. We have a lot of different needs across our different states, and doing something blanket like universal healthcare works with Europe, because there are a lot of smaller countries where you can implement that. America is very diverse economically and culturally. So while I do agree with you, a lot of people dismiss universal healthcare out of hand as being communism, and we should be a little bit more open-minded. I don't think their concerns are unfounded. Woo! It's so cool. Oh, that's so cool. Sorry, I love seeing the old Tiberian Dawn stuff. Anyway, sorry, I want to read some of these comments. There's some really good stuff in here. The D-Run Route says, for my favorite song personally, I think it's CNC3's Crimson City is the best, not because it's actually the best, because of the way it structures the musical representation of the gameplay loop of RTS. I'm going to have to listen to that song again. Senchat says, the question is, what is communism? Is it that people get together to help others, or is it oppose a system of freedom? The opposites. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not opposed to people wanting to help each other. I think a lot of times, if any time people see any sort of welfare or community things, people will say, oh, that's communism. I think we need to be very specific with our terms, because it's kind of similar with everybody calling everyone a fascist. If everyone's a fascist, then nothing is fascist. You have to be very specific with your terms. And I think it's the same thing with communism. Anything that has to do with a welfare state or government social programs can't be called communism, or else the term loses all meaning. And then you have the danger of not seeing when real communism shows up in its Stalinistic or North Korean or Chinese form. And it's very similar with fascism. I try to be very specific if I call something fascist. Otherwise, the term loses all meaning. And then if real fascism shows up, it's going to be a boy cried wolf situation. And then before you know it, we'll have fascism, and it'll be a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's kind of a weird dynamic. Trevor Lane says, in order to have a functional universal healthcare, you will need to have individual incentives for people to be healthy. Yeah, that's another good point. And I think that goes back to something else I've always said, which is that not every solution needs to be political. I think there are a lot of changes that need to be done in society, with family, or with education, or economics. And I think oftentimes we are tempted to solve everything with the hammer of legislation. And sometimes that's not good. That's kind of what happened with Prohibition. We had a cultural change, because we definitely had a problem with over drinking too much, and it was solved sort of on a grassroots level, so that people culturally were like, okay, we should have more temperance. It became a problem, and suddenly we were like, let's make it a constitutional amendment. And then you get organized crime, and you get, the Prohibition era, and it becomes an absolute mess. So I think we should be very careful. Something might be a good solution, but it may be a good solution done culturally or education or with family, and not necessarily politically. I think we need to be very sober-minded about how we implement our solutions, just as much as what those solutions are. Vlad says, free healthcare isn't free. We pay 50% of our wage, and then you have 20 plus sales tax and other taxes. Exactly. Are you from Europe, Vlad? Is that where you're talking from? Yeah, which can work. It's just that you need a populace that is willing to make that choice. There's no such thing as a free lunch. So, as he says, Mark Kalanick says, Firestorm Rain in the Night is good music. It is. Owen Lars says, I love the conversation switching effortlessly from real-life politics and Tiberian serious lore. I feel like people forget how edgy and controversial Tib Dawn actually was in the 90s. IRA in the Gulf War. Yeah, I love the Tib Dawn era. I didn't grow up with that game, but since having to do a bunch of research for my channel, it's incredible how much I love the world of that game. Not quite as much as Tiberian Sun, but I see why so many people love it. And also, I really appreciate you guys being very calm and reasonable in the chat, even though we're talking and touching on a lot of modern politics. I really appreciate you guys being civil. We don't get a lot of that today, and I very much appreciate you guys more than I can say. Senchat says, Owen Lars General is even more controversial. That's true.
New terrain discovered.
Oh. What are mutants doing there? Oh.
Mission accomplished.
Or Glusman says, we have universal healthcare in Israel. It's fine, not great, but fine. Still better than your healthcare. Yeah. And I think universal healthcare tends to work better with smaller countries. So it doesn't surprise me that your universal healthcare system works pretty well there. CC Hyper, hell yeah! Always love to see Tiberian Sun being played. Hey, CC Hyper, welcome to my stream. Good to have you here. Really appreciate you. First Joe Bostic, now CC Hyper. Good to have you here. Sorry, CC Hyper. We're in the middle of talking about universal healthcare along with Tiberian Sun lore. That's kind of just what happens on these streams. I apologize. Oh, gosh. Trevin Lane says, the next mission is a big headache. Thankfully, I know how to beat it reliably. I had to watch a walkthrough to figure it out. Thank you so much, Trevin Lane. If this is the mission I think it is, I am... Oof, that's going to be a lot. Okay. Let me just check my text real quick. Okay, that's just my sister. Okay. CC Hyper says, I heard Joe appeared here the other week. Joe is awesome. Yeah, I couldn't believe that it was him. It was kind of incredible. Yeah, I think we'll do one more mission, guys, beat the Scrid ship mission, and then we'll call it a day. I do still have things I got to do later today. By the way, just to give you a little update, I know I've been saying life has been rough the last several months. It is getting better. There's been some new developments, and things are doing good. Thank you guys so much for supporting me these last few months. I really appreciate you guys being just sort of a place where I can get away from real-life concerns and just talk about this amazing series. So thank you guys so much. You've been wonderful for my mental health, even if it's just showing up to support a game we love. You're helping out this Snowman to figure out how to be an adult. Yeah, the Titan patrols are the worst. Good grief. That was the first time playing as Nod I was actually afraid of Titans, because I was so used to playing the GDI campaign. Styles RJ, it's the level where you got to take the ship. I learned to just rush the last car with the bikes. Send chat. Snowman, want some teeth fillings for your Temple of Nod? CC Hyper, I hung out with the Petroglyph guys after we wrapped up the CNC remasters, and I got a chance to share a beer with Joe, shoot the breeze about photography and tanks. That is awesome. Oh man, living the dream. Honestly, I didn't have any dreams for this channel, but now my dream is like someday maybe I become big enough that I can actually like talk with some of the guys. I mean, I guess I kind of have because I talked with Joe Bostic in the chat. So like, I guess I've already lived that dream. But that sounds amazing, CC Hyper. Owen Lars says Tib Dawn together with Warcraft 2, StarCraft, Myth were my childhood peak strategy RTS era. I still view RA1 and Tibson as those newer ones. That's great. All right, Trevor Lane, I'm going to need a lot of your help because I'm probably going to suck at this.
The underground hangar you're about to enter houses an alien warship constructed at the end of the last war. The technology in this ship is more valuable to the Brotherhood than anything that has come before. Return it to me in Cairo.
There's no warship here. Incoming emergency message.
Slavic, are you getting this?
Reagan?
I borrowed this stupid ship. Some holds going South America, and we can't control it.
Idiot.
We're somewhere southwest of the Great Antilles. Mayday! Mayday! Hey,
Cabal informed Battle Grid response. We were going to North America.
And notified Kane. He will not be pleased.
Vega's lucky. He'll die in the crash.
If GDI gets to that ship before...
We will locate that craft before GDI.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, no, CC Hyper, it's great. I've heard other people say, I was talking with Alex06 of the CNC Discord. He was saying also that very few people stream the campaigns, which surprises me. That's basically all I want to do. I'm not very good at multiplayer. That's more my brother Aussie. He actually recently played against one of the big guys in the generals scene. Not in any official capacity. It was just sort of he was opening it up to anyone. And my brother actually won. A lot of people were accusing him of stream sniping, but it was like he just got lucky. But he's the multiplayer guy. Aussie, he was at the beginning of this chat. He's the multiplayer guy for general specifically. I just play single player. I am not good enough to beat anyone, so that's basically all I stream. Miria Chan, it's sad to see how much work Westwood put in some of the maps and we don't see otherwise because of how fast submissions are accomplished, like the Scrinship mission or the GDI mission with the stopping the train of. Okay, CC Hyper. As part of my time with EA, I got to hang out with the EA folk and be a part of the digitization of the Westwood archive. It was great to see some of the stuff that Tiberian's done in RA2 and HQ, among others. CC Hyper. Not sure if you saw it, but the footage from Renegade and Generals you released earlier in the year came from the digitization effort. Oh, nice. So there was some archive stuff you guys were doing for Tiberian Sun and RA2 as well, even though the focus of the remasters was Red Alert 1 and the original Command and Conquer. All right. So Trevin Lane says I need to follow the tracks south to the bridge, cross the bridge, head east, get my engineers into the screen ship, and get my forces across the bridge. I think that's what I heard. Correct me if I'm wrong. By the way, I think everything up until this point is still canon. I think all of this stuff happens before the GDI campaign begins in the southwest of America. I think this is where the campaign diverges. Trevor Lane says, follow the south tracks to the bridge, head east, rush the engineers to the ship track while your main force goes to the other side of the down bridge, destroy the engine, then the last car. Okay, here we go.
The alien craft is located in this region. Find it. You must utilize your stealth advantage, as the area is infested with GDI. Once the craft is located, get an engineer inside to retrieve the Teslas. Should you encounter Vega's forces, consider them expendable.
Expendable. CC Hyper says, everything Westwood that we could find. Nothing specific to any game or franchise. EA's physical archives is massive, and it will take a very long time to get everything back up. Interesting. Avoid Titans at all costs.
Reinforcements have arrived.
Sir?
Maybe don't. Maybe don't. Maybe don't. Maybe don't. You're not good against infantry. You're not good against infantry. Definitive Light, is there any rhyme or reason to the zones of control we see in this map? They just seem kind of like dots scattered around. I don't know. Alright. Okay. Okay, follow the track south. Senchat says, CC Hyper, EA is around for a long time. We've seen alone the tons of tapes they found for CNC's 25th year.
Yes, sir. 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 Yes, sir.
Oh, shoot, shoot, shoot. Am I doing this wrong, Trevin Lane? Yeah, it sounds like I'm doing it wrong. Okay.
Unit ready. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Infantry reporting.
Okay, we're going north across the bridge.
Loud and clear. Waiting orders.
I don't know why my brain just interpreted that as south for some reason.
Loud and clear.
Waiting.
Oh, I remember this.
Ready.
Oh, it's starting to come back to me. CC Hyper says, I can hang around for another 10 minutes if you have any questions. Can't officially speak of any remasters, though. That's above my pay grade, and I have no idea. Yeah, no, I figured.
Yes, sir.
Did you guys ever pick up any, like, material from, like, Westwood's cancel projects, like Tiberium Incursion, their original CNC 3? Is any of that still at EA, or is that all gone?
Moving out.
Also, you guys are free to ask questions as well, because I'm going to be busy playing. So, CC Hyper's here, guys. Take advantage of it. Ask questions.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, here we go.
Yes, sir. Unit on my way. You got it. Waiting orders. On my way.
Unit lost.
Unit lost. Okay, follow the south set of tracks. Got it.
Yes, sir. Sir. Orders received. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No. You saw nothing.
Waiting order. Yes, sir. Orders received. On my way.
All you had to do was follow the dang train, CJ.
Yes, sir. Engineering.
Of a number 7, a number 9 large, a number 7, 2 number 45s, 1 with extra dip, and a large soap.
Unit ready. Orders received.
Alright. Okay. Follow the south set of tracks. What do I do next, Trevin Lane? CC Hyper says, Snowman, no idea there. I spent a lot of time finding very specific things, so much of the effort, so much more could be discovered. It just requires time and effort. Jim Fasella is trying to head that up. So is there like an active project still going on at EA to like digitize all of the Westwood stuff at EA? That'd be pretty cool if that was the case. Trevor Lane says, those Titans will not quit. Watch those engineers. Got it. Also keep going east. Duran Route says, have you ever played Herzog's Way? The last proto RTS before Westwood officially birthed the genre with Dune 2. I have not played... No, actually I have. On DOSBox, I played the original Dune 2 a little bit. I didn't get past like the second mission. It's very hard. I played a little bit of Dune 2000, which is the Dune 2 remaster in the Alert 1 engine that Westwood made. I have not played Herzog's Way. If there is a way to actually play it on modern computers, please let me know. Also, Trevin Lane, this thing is destroyed. How do I go east? Do I go up and east? Is that where you're going? Northeast? CC Hyper says, I worked on the CNC remasters, did the engineering for CNC on the Steam release, and then the source code release back in February. Nice. Also, he says, Snowman, there is an active effort to archive all EA physical assets. Oh, okay, interesting. CC Hyper also says, Sencha, I don't think anyone knows what's next for EA, but I'm happy Battlefield is doing well, as I have a lot of friends who worked on it. That is so cool. I'm glad we still have, like, CNC people working with EA and people on the inside. Trevin Lane. When the train tracks reach the broken bridge, go northeast to find the shipwreck. Engineer rush it while your troops go south. Right. Why do I need to go south again? Oh, because I have to stop the transport of the Tacitus. Gotcha. Trying to keep up with everything. Hello. Can you move, please? All right, we're doing this piece by piece, step by step, save by save. Okay, it's getting bluer. I think that means that Scrin ship is nearby. Ah. Dang it. Okay, that was a mistake. Do I just wait for them to pass, or can I rush around them? Oh, no, there's time. No, we can't wait. We can't wait. We can't wait. Go, 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 go. Just go, just go, just go, just go, just go. Just go. Follow the dang train. You guys get over here. I think that's where it is. I think I remember that being where it was. Dang it, Vega. Why'd you have to go on a joyride? Go, go, go. Alright, save again. Fix force missions. This one was so hard. This was the mission I got stuck on as a kid. I did eventually beat it. Oh, is that the train I need to get to, or is it south? I think it's south. Where do I go from here? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Dang it, where is it? There it is. Get in. Wait. Shoot. Okay, well, I mishandled that. Okay. Down here, south, 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 south. Okay, going south. Going south. Gosh dang it. Okay, I'm gonna load back and keep going. I gotta... Okay, keep going this way. Go, 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 go. Oh, is that... Do I have to go up here? Get in. Get in. Get in, you idiots. Where am I going? Am I going the wrong way? Oh, here we go. Hey, look, it's Vegas forces. Where's the train?
Building captured.
Ah! Oh gosh! No! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! This is breaking me, guys. This is breaking me. Should I have gone north instead then? This is bringing back 9-year-old me just being like, I don't understand. I freaking hate this, guys. Like, I know I'm an adult, so like I could actually beat this and it wouldn't be that much harder. But I am losing all motivation to actually complete this mission. Do you guys have any other questions for CC Hyper or for me or any other topics of conversation? I kind of just want to talk for a bit instead of continuing this. Trevor Lane says, wait at the bridge until the train arrives. Which bridge? Are you talking about this one? Are you talking about this bridge? If that's the bridge you're talking about, say yes, Trevor Lane. CNC Hyper says a couple of responses above. Let me take a look. Here we go. CC Hyper says, Snowman, the good news is that a lot of legacy game franchises with EA are now under a team of people who care. So if anything was to happen with Legacy IP, it's in the right hands. That's good. And I am encouraged because that's kind of how it went with the remasters. The remasters were handled extremely well, and EA kind of just let the people who cared about it do it. So, CC Hyper also says some cool things. Trivia about Tib's Son is that it's heavily built on the Red Alert engine, and it has many workarounds for the fake 2.5 impression. Ask Joe Bostic about bridges. I will have to do that. I do remember Joe Bostic mentioning the last time he was on my stream was he kind of regrets that they went with that 2.5 aesthetic because he says if we had built it in an entirely 3D engine, it would be a lot easier to remaster. Chase Baker says, the Fixed Force missions are so hard. This is a hellish Fixed Force mission. Even as a veteran of the game, I have to save scum a lot through it. I know, right? Classic CNC fail. Benjamin Delapine says, which GDI nod character do you like, except Keen, of course? For GDI, it's hard not to love General Granger from CNC3. As much as I love General James Solomon, Granger, I think, is a true believer of what GDI stands for, and I respect that. Also, you know, it's... excuse me. It's Michael Ironside. You can't not love Michael Ironside. As for Nod, it's probably in between Anton Slavic and Brother Marcion for two very different reasons. Anton Slavic, I feel like, is just the most competent Nod commander in the entire series, who's both, like, a true believer in Kane, but not quite a fanatic. Like, he still is sober-minded and gets stuff done, and I just really respect that. I think he's a very cool character. And Brother Marcion, just because I love the idea of, like, theological schisms in Nod, and I love that, like, Kane even respected him for having an oratorical gift, and I just think he's a cool character for that reason. Chase Baker says, hey, Snowman and Generals, what is you always getting this powers unit? I always get the Pathfinder and the Scud Launcher with a soft spot for the Stealth Fighter. Yeah, I mostly play as USA Generals in Generals. I sometimes play as the Chinese. I almost never play as GLA. My go-to is the UAV, and then I get the Pathfinder. I get all three Warthogs, and then I get the Spectre gunship, the Fuel Air Bomb, and I think that's it. But that's my go-to for General's powers. I just love the Warthogs. CC Hyper says, the General's engine was their attempt to work on Red Alert 3 and CNC3, the original Westwood versions. Then it grew out to be used for Generals, so pretty much the Westwood RA3 and CNC3 was being planned with Generals. Oh, interesting. I've heard so much about what CNC3 was supposed to be. I have never heard about Westwood plans for RA3. I would love to talk to somebody in Westwood about that. Oh, hey, Alex Basadze. Welcome back to the chat. Good to have you here. Styles RJ. Yes, Slavic didn't have any cyborgs guarding him. He was smart. Trevor Lane. I just reset if I get targeted by the Titans. They're like a Terminator. Indeed. Or Gluesman. Michael Ironside playing a good what madness is this? Yeah. Benjamin Delpine. I didn't like Marcion for one thing. He killed Slavic. One of his fanatics killed Slavic. And I don't know if it's implied that he ordered it or if the fanatic did it on his own. Either way, Brother Marcion took advantage of it to take over the Black Hand. Styles RJ. So when the other Nod leaders were like, hey, let's have these creepy cyborgs as bodyguards, Slavic was like, how about we don't? Yeah, Slavic was a smart. He knew what was up. That's why I like him, because he's competent. CC Hyper says, Sentia, I would love to work on a brand new entry into the CNC franchise, maybe something inspired by Helldivers 2 with a huge world online unpacked. Yeah. My dream would be to quit everything that I've ever done in my life and just work on a new CNC, or just really any video game that I'm passionate about. That would be way too hard, and it would be like becoming an artist. I wouldn't be able to make money off of it, but it's a dream. Okay. Westwood Specific was working on Red Alert 3 after Red Alert 2 with Westwood Vegas. The original crew was working on CNC Incursion. Oh, okay. Dang, I would love to hear more about that. Good guy, because Michael Ironside is always playing bad guys. Really? What else was Michael Ironside play? Because the only thing I know Michael Ironside from is Sam Fisher from the Splinter Cell series. Love those games where he's a good guy.
And then I guess he plays in Starship Troopers, but I haven't actually watched that all the way through, so I don't really know if he's a good guy or not. Trevor Lane, I honestly hate this mission. CC Hyper. It's never too late. I didn't join the game industries until I was 31. Hey! I'm about that age. Maybe I will. Maybe I will. Styles RJ. I do art as a hobby because being an actual artist wouldn't pay the bills. See, you get it, Styles RJ. Shot combo. You could do it. You have the passion for it. I will tell you guys, I've been trying to learn video game programming through like online courses for years, and I keep not being able to finish it and get around to it. Me and Aussie have been trying to put our heads together and do a course together. And we have an idea for an indie game, and that's not like too ambitious, because I hear the biggest problem with people who make video games for the first time is they're way too ambitious with their first project. I would love to finish that. If nothing else, I would love to finish my idea for that indie game and get it out like on Steam. I think if I could at least do that, I would feel like I had at least accomplished that part of my dream. So, yeah, maybe I will. Maybe that's my retirement plan, become an indie developer. Owen Lars. He plays a rough good guy in V, Alien Invasion series from the 80s. Interesting. All right. I'll leave it up to the chat. Do I end the stream here, or do I try one more time to beat this mission? Alex Bissadze, I want to ask you something about CNC MMO or the remakes, but no idea. Did the idea resurface after the initial cancellation? Are you talking about Command & Conquer Continuum? CC Hyper. Don't be an ideas guy. Just build something and iterate it. Companies value something playable with good systems over polished gameplay. That's a good idea. Oh, yeah, I really should just do it. Once my life settles, and it looks like it is starting to settle, maybe I'll get back into that with Aussie. Would you guys be interested in that if I started making the indie game, if I posted every now and again, like, our progress on making it? Luke Danger, I need to hop off, but do what you wish. It's a painful one. Owen Lars with the Daft Punk one more time. All right, Trevor Lane, if I do this one more time, you said to wait by the bridge. I'm assuming you mean this bridge. The Wolverines are going to play heck with me, but should I try that? Give me an explanation. What should I do if I do this again? What should my strategy be? CC Hyper says, Alex Bissadze, Continuum was the MMO. It never left the prototype state. I heard some story elements. The Continuum was supposed to take place after Firestorm, and it was supposed to be with like satellites and stuff that were like pumping Sonic into the atmosphere and clearing it of Tiberium. Was that true, or did I make that up? Is Trevor Lane gone? Shoot.
Engineering. Unit reporting. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Orders received.
Let's hide over here.
Yes, sir.
Shoot, really? Okay, that's just not fair.
I'm on it. Engineering. No problem.
Unit lost.
I don't know what the train is. Oh, wait, I do remember how I did this mission. I did. I went northeast and I followed it down and destroyed the train there. Well, yeah, Trevor Lane, the Wolverines are getting me now. Unless you want me to start from the beginning. I could start from the beginning. Yeah, we'll start from the beginning. Since I'm so fast, I think I can go all the way up northeast and go down south and then hit the train. I think I remember that's how I did it as a kid. All right, let's try it one more time.
Reinforcements have arrived.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, on my way. Unit reporting. Yes, sir. Unit ready. Waiting. Yes, sir. On my way. You got it. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Okay, I'm going to try the northeast strategy.
Waiting order. Loud and clear. Unit reporting. On my way. Yes, sir.
Because I think we're pretty fast. I think we can make it.
Reporting. Unit ready. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I just got to make sure the Titans don't see me.
Moving out. Engineering. Unit ready. You got it. Orders received. Yes, sir. Engineering. Waiting orders. Yes, sir. Sir, on my way. On my way. Yes, sir.
Alright. Lock in, guys. Lock in. Also, any of you guys ever seen, Any of you guys watch anime? What kind of anime you guys watch, if any of you do?
Engineering. Waiting orders. Yes, sir.
A friend of mine got me into Demon Slayer, and then I found out that my fiance really likes that, so we went and saw the recent Infinity Castle movie in theaters. That was pretty fun.
Engineering.
I'm trying to catch up on My Hero Academia now, because I got other friends that are into that. Most of my interests for anime end up just being like, what are my friends into, and what can I watch of theirs so I can talk about it with them. Alright, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Just rush it. Just rush it. Just rush it. We're going.
On my way. Awaiting orders. Sir. Sir.
We're going pretty fast. I think we can make it.
Yes, sir.
Yes! 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 Go! 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 Go!
Orders received. No problem. You got it.
Come on.
Unit on my way.
Move.
Yes, sir. Waiting orders.
Come on.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Go! 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 Come on. We can make it. We can make it. We can make it.
Yes, sir. Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Waiting orders. Unit ready.
Go! 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 Come on.
Yes, sir. Orders received.
The train's right there.
Yes, sir.
Come on. I see the smoke.
Yes, sir.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. Come on.
Yes, sir. Moving out.
This is our time. Let's go out there and take it.
On my way. Yes,
There it is. There's the smoke. It's still moving.
sir. On my way.
Come on.
Orders received. On my way.
Let's freaking go.
On my way. Yes, sir. Awaiting orders. No problem.
Okay, destroy the caboose. Destroy the caboose. Destroy the caboose. The caboose. The caboose. Take it. Yes. 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 And there's the thumbnails, boyos. We freaking did it. We freaking did it. Let's freaking go. Sorry, I missed something from CC Hyper. All right, I need to head off now. I'll try and drop by again soon. Added you on Discord, so drop me a message when you're live next. Oh, awesome. Sure, I'd love to CC Hyper. Dude, my brother, Aussie, he's gonna flip when he finds out that I'm Discord friends with CC Hyper. My whole family is a CNC family. You guys remember that? Like Snowdad, total generals guy. My sister was always more of an Age of Empires gal, but still. Oh my gosh, what else did I miss? Vivid of Light, watch a bunch. My 3 overall favorites are old classics, Full Metal Alchemist and Neon Genesis Evangelion, a more obscure one called Chronosid. I did watch Neon Genesis Evangelion, the original one. I regret everything and wish that I could find some bleach for my eyes. You said it was a mech show! I was lied to! Anyway, Full Metal Alchemist, I did start watching that because my cousin was really into it, and then I did get back into it, and then I found out it's like my fiance's absolute favorite, like, anime, so we're going through it now together, which is the best way to do it. I have not heard of Chrono Crusade. I'll have to look that up. Does that have anything to do with time travel? Because if it does, I'm all in. Or Guzman says, Studio Ghibli, and when I was a kid, I saw the 90s movies anime. Yes, I need to watch more Studio Ghibli. The only one I've watched so far is Porco Rosso. I've watched that one. I really like that one. I need to watch more. My other friend, Rogue, really likes Studio Ghibli. I need to watch more with him. Gabriel Aikionobi. Always hated this mission. Gabriel, did you become a member of my channel? You're green just like Shock Combo is. If so, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Vid of Light, preferably Brotherhood. Yes, I'm watching the Brotherhood version. Owen Lars says, Last Exile, steampunk/dieselpunk series. That sounds incredible. Neon Genesis Evangelion, Akira, Ghost in the Shell, and Ghibli and Pokemon. Nice. Alex Bisatze, I haven't watched in a while. Studio Ghibli, Naruto, OG Voltron, most surface level. My dad watched more, to be honest. Still, that's a good lineup. Yeah, Styles RJ. Neon Genesis. Yeah, I thought it was a mech show at the end. Chalmy was like, huh, what did I watch? What the heck? Styles RJ says, I never finished Brotherhood. I think Netflix stopped it along with Fairy Tail, probably. Duran Route. Evil Tim Courier from Delegate and Disket Bluecom. I'm escaping to the one place that has been corrupted by communism. Right on a trench. All we had to do was follow the dang train. I missed most of the win. I was accepting a delivery. Yeah, no problem, Trevin Lane. Thank you for helping me so much with that mission. I'm glad I remembered going through the Northeast. Brotherhood. Brotherhood is what I watch. That's what everyone recommends. Do you know the anime 3000 Leagues in Search of Mother? I do not. I probably should check that out. Shot Combo, Spirited Away, and Howl's Castle at least. I also enjoy Cowboy Bebop. I really want to watch Howl's Moving Castle and Ponyo. Those are the two I really want to watch. Vidit of Light. Chrono Crusade doesn't have anything to do with time travel, but it does take place in the Roaring Twenties. Ooh! It asks the question, is God a loving father worthy of worship or an impartial observer? Why does that sound like exactly the kind of anime that I would love? The 1920s, I love historical stuff, and then, like, weird theological questions. Okay, I'm totally checking out Chrono Crusade, then. Owen Lars says, my dad got me into Tib Dawn in the first place and beat me a million times when we played LAN. My dad never moved on to other Westwood games. We were a Tib Dawn only household. Interesting. Yeah, my dad started out with Red Alert 1 and Tib Sun. He was stuck on Tib Sun for a long time until Generals came out, and then that's all he plays now. Vidit of Light, the characters fall on differing sides of the question. That sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. I love philosophical and historical stuff. Duran Root, you might prefer Gurren Lagann to Evangelion. What is that? Number one Rivals, how's the campaign going? Sorry, you just missed it. We finished the last mission I'm going to do for this stream, but we beat the really hard Scrid ship mission on the Nod campaign. Good grief, that was hard. Mark Kalinix, a lot of mecha anime, but recently I haven't watched anime. Yeah, the last mech anime I watched was I'll Noah Zero. The story was kind of just okay. I really didn't like the ending that much, but all the strategies for how he defeats the mechs is incredible, and the soundtrack. Do you guys do yourselves a favor, even if you don't like anime, look up the I'll Noah Zero soundtrack by, I think it's Hiroyuki Sawani, or I can't remember his name, but it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Styles RJ, careful about the Ghibli film about the Tanuki. Yeah, I know what you're referring to. I know what you're referring to. Or Glusman, Netflix took down Black Lagoon when I was in the middle of watching it. Okay, we're going to watch the next cutscene. I'm going to save, and then we're going to end the stream. But stick around, because I do have a little graphic for how we end the stream. So that'll be fun to watch.
The ship is immobilized, sir. Vega's men are ready to blow down the sinkhole.
And the Tacitus.
There's no sign of the object which you described, sir.
The Tacitus is the source, Slavic. Its Tiberian secrets can make or break empires. Find it.
Locate that Tacitus soldier, or I will bury your team in that hole.
Yes, sir. Hang on, sir. There's movement here.
Cabal. Replay.
Detail. Frame forward. Cycle.
Freeze. Extrapolate for missing data. Mute.
Cabal. How do we find her?
Probabilities suggest she will return to the GTI medical colony near Provo, or into the Underground Railroad here near Detroit. The decision is yours, Commander Slavic.
All right. Or Guzman says 3,000 Leagues in Search of Mothers, loosely based on a small part of the Italian novel Heart, created by Edmondo de Amicis. Okay, interesting. Bit of Light says, it's by no means what I call theologically accurate, but still closer than a lot of series, at least in anime. The fact that it wrestles with the question all intrigues me. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of my point. I like the wrestling with the theological questions, that sort of thing. I think that's fascinating. Video Crow's Nest, good to have you. I'm sorry, Frodo. I was delayed. No worries. Glad you could be here at all. Yeah, Oksana seems to really hate mutants. Styles RJ says, I always thought she and Umagon had history. It does seem that way. Chase Baker. Cabal, zoom and enhance. He is an AI, so he could upscale it. Trevin Lane. Interesting how Nod depends on mutants, but hates them. Yeah, Nod's very paradoxical like that. Look, most of Texas is GDI territory. Duran Rao. To elaborate on my earlier comment, Gurren Lagann was meant to be the thematic antithesis to Evangelion. Huh. Where Evangelion is the pinnacle of being grim, Gurren Lagann is peak hope maxing. Interesting. I'll have to check that out. Senshat says, Trevin Lane, they want perfect mutants, not anomalies like them. Yeah, you are going to be adapted to Tiberium, Kane's Way, or not at all. Video Crow's Nest. New Detroit. One cannot still have anything in Detroit, new or old. Indeed. All right, let me look at the 2 missions.
The mutant female may be trying to reach the underground railway system located in New Detroit. Move in and control the station before she arrives. If she boards the train, you must stop it immediately. This may be our last chance of capturing the abomination.
Dang, Cabal. Tell me how you really feel. Also, why is there a new Detroit in Arizona? What happened to old Detroit? Maybe we don't want to know.
You must reach the medical colony in the region without being prematurely detected by GDI and forcing a base evacuation. To prevent this, consider first destroying the 3 sensor towers protecting the base. Our new artillery unit should be sufficient for the job, even in your hands. Once inside the base, the capture of the mutant female should be simple.
Okay, help me out, guys. Which one of these is dependent on the other? Which one is the secondary mission? Also, Cabal, really? Did you have to throw that shade about me using artillery? The artillery literally doesn't miss. It'd be good in anyone's hands. Vidit of Light says, I will definitely have to pick your brain for thoughts on Chrono Crusade when you check it out. It also has an Evangelion English voice actor in it, Tiffany Grant. Interesting. Yeah, no, I look forward to talking about that. You always have really interesting comments on my videos, Vidit of Light. What happened to Old Detroit? Well, someone stole it. What happened to Detroit on the Great Lakes? Yeah. Both are primary. What? No. Okay. Well, poop. Well, I think I'd rather do a base assault than a train one. Trevor Lane says, it's not an optional mission. Do it how you want it. I remember as a kid doing the train mission, so I think I'll do this one since I don't think I played this one as a kid. Okay. Good, 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 good.
Battle control offline.
Okay. Two-Run Route says, Scrim Scouting Force abducting the city of Detroit early is now a canon event. Alright. Okay, guys. I'm going to end the stream here. Stick around if you want to see the screen that ends it. But thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate you all. Next Saturday, I'm trying to see. I think I'll be free next Saturday. I could be wrong. Unless the Super Challenge Bros are doing a stream next week, and then I'll be helping them out with that. But otherwise, I think I should be good to go for next week as well. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for helping my mental health. And now, a little treat for you guys. let's switch over to the end screen. Let's hope this works.
Battle control offline.